One of the things that I share with everyone when I come and do a presentation is that I stand strong on the shoulders of those that have gone before me. It's not that I'm here in and of myself and I've just appeared, but I stand strong because I stand on the shoulders of my parents and I stand on the shoulders of their parents. I stand on the shoulders of people in my family that I cannot call the name of, but I am so grateful that they were able to live the lives that they lived because I am able to live my life. And so I stand strong knowing that it's because they stand strong. I honor my ancestors. I honor the ones that you stand on who stood strong in the face of adversity and in the face of challenge. And so thank you for standing strong on the shoulders of those that have gone before you. And as I begin my presentation, I like to talk about community. I want you to understand that one of the things that I really believe in is that every community, the intellect to heal itself. I don't go into community or go into other people's communities even thinking that somehow I am an expert or that I know something about the food system that they don't already know. I go into service when I go into community. So I serve on the behalf of my ancestors to help enlighten those folk that already know what's going on in their community. They know exactly what's going on in their community to heal themselves. One of the things that I talk about a lot is the fact that the reason that I do this work is not because I was an environmentalist. I did not dislike trees at all. I just didn't have a connection with trees other than that's a pretty tree. Thank you. See you, tree. Connect to this work because I'm a mother. And as a mother, I deeply love my son. I live and breathe, and when I see his face, it makes me happy. I do this work because he came here with food allergies. My son is allergic to all dairy products, shellfish, eggs, and peanuts. As a mother, that was quite frightening to me because I didn't know what to feed my son. I had to quickly find out about this thing we call the food system, and then I had to really understand in short order what it was going to take to feed my son. And so I went about this journey, food justice. What is that? What I began to learn about food justice was that, one, I didn't have access to the best quality food in my community, and at that time it was the west side of Chicago. I did not have a way of even knowing that, and so I had to go and really begin to research the food system. So I found out a couple things. One, I found out that our food system had been genetically modified, or the food in it had been genetically modified, and that nobody asked me. I didn't get the memo. I didn't know what that was, yet it was that way. In fact, at that time, something close to 90% of the corn and the soy was genetically modified in the food system. I didn't know what that was, and I just didn't want it for my baby. I also learned that our food was produced with a lot of pesticides, and I found out that pesticides negatively impact the development of children. So I didn't want pesticides in my food. I wanted the best quality food that I could find for my child. But that food was not available in my community. So for me, food justice at that time meant urban agriculture. I would grow my own food. We converted vacant lots in my community to urban farm sites. The first thing that we converted, though, was my backyard, I have to be honest. I had to figure out whether I could actually grow food myself. And then we went out into community. We had young people come and work for us. They tested the soil to make sure that the soil was adequate for production. And then we began to hire people from the community. We took that food to farmers markets. We brought farmers from rural communities to our farmers markets. We created all kinds of retail operations in our community to sell food to our folks. Yet, I had a problem. This is how I looked at the food system. And I couldn't figure out what exactly was my problem. I just wasn't getting the kind of traction that I needed to get when I talked about production, urban agriculture, distribution, farmers markets, farmers, retail operations, distribution mechanisms, value adding the food. I just wasn't getting where I needed to go with that conversation. The other part of the conversation that didn't get me where I needed to go was I just really needed to focus on eat food, not too much, mostly plants. Nice message, but in my community where I could not really, one, find that kind of food, nor could I find the food that was culturally relevant for my experience. The fact of the matter is, in my community, I could get a semi-automatic weapon quicker than I could get a tomato. There are communities in the United States where you're more likely to get killed than you are likely to find a cup of yogurt. And we need to sit with that for a second. I heard some laughter. Maybe that's nervous laughter. But this is the reality of the situation. People could die before they actually eat healthy. But yet in my neighborhood, I can get every variety of fried chicken. I can get every kind of fast food. I can get hamburgers, hot dogs. I can get designer clothes. But the reality is that my son is more likely to get shot and killed before I can make him healthy. So that's why I stand here today. I don't stand here for any other reason. I stand here because I'm standing on the fact that I know that my son deserves as much right to healthy food as anybody else on the planet. And if I can get it for him, I can get it for any kid that's around. So I had to step my game up. Food Justice 2.0. Obviously, I had the wrong idea. Obviously, I had some pieces, for me at least, that were missing. I could see it on the ground that my food system was a little bit different. But when I looked at it from a different angle, I found out that our food system was really a global food industrial complex, very much like the prison industrial complex. It masks many of the relationships that it has, and it's built on exploitation of land and labor. It even has pieces of the food system that are unrelated to one another. Marketing, you could market Cheerios and Fruit Loops all day long. It has nothing to do with production or agriculture. The piece of the food system that I could see from where I was in my community is this one. But I didn't know about this one, the financial services. I had no idea that the educational system was also impacted by the food system. And so as I began to problem solve around, well, what does it really take to change the food system, I have to really understand that this is really much too simplistic of an analysis. That my analysis has to be this. And perhaps if I can tweak any one of these, I might be able to topple the system. There's another issue. One of the things that I hear us say, or at least I hear in my circles, is that if all we need to do is just go back. If we could go back to the food system that was before this one, things would be better. And so I asked you, when did we ever have a fair, just, or healthy food system? We surely haven't had it in the last 15 years or 14 years that I've been doing this work, so we can bump that out. But let's go back 25 or 30 years, say 40 years. So go back 40 years in the food system, and can we find a fair, just, and healthy food system at that point? Not really. It's the introduction of high fructose corn syrup in our food system. We can see the trend lines going up around obesity, the 1970s. So let's go back to the 50s, 1950. The introduction of DDT in the food system. All right, well, let's go back further. Let's go back to the 1930s, the Dust Bowl. Okay, let's keep going. 1800s, 1850s, slavery. Slavery wasn't fair, just, or healthy for anybody. Yet that labor is the cornerstone of our food system. We can go back 400, 500, 600 more years and begin to talk about the exploitation of land and the removal of Native Americans off their land. We will never find a healthy, just, or fair food system in the United States. It's never been one. So part of the problem that we have is that we are trying to build that which has never existed. That's the task before us, is we're building that something that has never existed before. And we have to understand that what we have now is built upon a whole lot of mythology. One of them is this manifest destiny. We're going to move folk off the land. And in that removal, we're going to bring in technology. So into this conversation, we have to read the narratives of people of color. We have to begin to understand that colonialism and historical trauma are at the core of why many people are suffering from health disparities right now. We have to come to accept that the law of the land up until 1976 was the annihilation of Native Americans. It wasn't just move them someplace else. It was use food as a weapon. Kill off their food supply and we can kill them. In case you've never seen this before, this is the heads of buffalo. Thousands and thousands and thousands of buffalo heads just slaughtered. And so the removal of Native Americans and the importation of 9.5 million Africans created slavery and the thing that we call a food system today. The reason that I talk about this as an industrial food complex, because right now, today, we still have a food system that's built on modern-day slavery. What is so similar between the industrial prison complex and the industrial food system is that both are built upon the exploitation of men of color, black and brown people of color. We still today stand on a food system that's built upon the exploitation of labor. Many of us probably like this kitchen, right? I like this kitchen. I need a kitchen like that in my life. But the fact of the matter is that many people in the world's kitchen look like this. And in the United States, many folks' kitchen looks like this. Until we can understand that really what we are returning to is a return to an idea around an ancestral heritage around the food system. The ancestral kitchen. A spiritual kitchen, but also a physical kitchen. That understands that we have to put soul back into our solution. And so Occupy Wall Street represented a little bit of that. We got a little taste of activism. We got a little taste of soul. When people stood up and said, you know, we have to come together, we have to organize, we need to ask for something different. I encourage you today to go beyond the Farm Bill. I know that many of you talk about the Farm Bill and work on the Farm Bill, and that's a beautiful thing, but the solution that we're looking for will not be found in tweaking the Farm Bill. It will be found in your vision. What is your vision for a fair, just, and healthy food system? As you work for change, you look for change, what is the vision? I know you can tell me exactly what's wrong with the food system. I'm sure you all have stats and statistics and numbers and figures out of this world. But what's your vision? I'll tell you mine. It's to have President Obama sign a Fair, Just, and Healthy Food Act that mandates food justice in the United States government. Replicating the Environmental Justice Pledge. And it's my dream that every person in the United States has the language to talk about what a just, fair, and healthy food system is. And I hope that each and every one of you will take the opportunity to join me in this challenge to create what has never been before, a fair, just, and healthy food system.